Hi everyone, Susan Spitzberg here. Today is Excel is Easy Lesson 3, and what we're going to be doing is the start of a setup of a sales sheet, and we're going to do some formatting and learn some tricks, and also we're going to be learning how to use equal sum. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So here's our Excel sheet. It's for the BBT company, and these are the sales reps. And we're going to start by merging and centering the title. So if you came from a typewriter at one point, you remember how hard it was to center a title over the data on your sheet? We had to go to the middle and backspace 2 for every one, and then it didn't look quite right if we had an odd number of characters. So Excel makes this very easy for you. And what you want to do is start in your first cell and click and drag, holding your mouse down over all of the cells or all of the columns that have data. So in this case, we have data all the way to column E. So we're going to click and drag over to column E. And we call that highlighted thing a range. And we'll be talking about ranges more as we go along. And once you get that highlighted, you can click on the Merge and Center button. And then we'll do the second one. Now you can't do them both together because Excel will think that you want to put them between rows 1 and 2 also. And it's going to tell you that it's going to blow away the stuff in the second row. And since we want the stuff in the second row, we have to do them separately. So I'm going to click and drag across here again. And our Merge Center button is in the alignment area, and it's got these 2 little arrows here. And depending on the resolution of your monitor, you may actually see it with the words Merge and Center right next to it. But if you don't, please note that it is in that alignment section in a little like subsection to the right of this line. So I'm going to click on that. And now that we have those, if we want to do something to both of those at the same time, we can just click and drag now down to select them. And say, for example, we might want to bold them. And we might want to make them just a little bit bigger. And this little increase font size button here is a wonderful little tool because you don't have to keep remembering, oh, did I want to make it 12? Did I want to make it 13? Nobody ever comes in and looks over your shoulder and says, oh, make that 11.5. People just kind of eyeball it until they get it the way they want it. So I'm just going to increase it once. And just to tell you that next to it is a button that you can decrease the font size. So if you kept going like this and you made it too big, then you could click on this a few times to make it smaller. The nice thing about this button is that if you had fonts of different sizes in your sheet and you wanted to make them all a little bit bigger, you could select them and then use this button, because if it was at 12, anything that was at 12 would go to 13. If the rest of the stuff was at 9, it would go to 10. So it's a great way of keeping everything in proportion, but making it either larger or smaller. Now under that, we have January, but we want to get February and March in here too. And Excel has some built-in things to help you do some of this stuff. And so if we point to the fill handle, the fill handle is that little square thing in the lower right-hand corner of the active cell. When you point to it, your mouse pointer will become a skinny black plus. And if you hold your mouse key down and then go across, you will fill those all in. The nice thing about this is if you had spelled out January, February and March would be spelled out. If they were uppercase, then these would be uppercase also. And in case you're wondering, yes, this does work with days of the week. It also works with dates. So that if you have a date and you click and drag over it, it will increase the date by 1 each time. And if you are in February and you're in a leap year, it even knows to do February 29th for you. So under that, we're going to put a total in, but I'm going to show you what not to do first. After I put in an equal sign, which is something you do have to do first. Okay, by putting the equal sign in there, that puts us in a calculation mode, and if you look up here, you'll see that you have a red X and a check mark. So the red X you can click if you want to cancel what you've just done, and the check mark is, even though it says enter, it's a little bit different because when you click it, you stay in the cell that you were working in. If you press enter, you go down 1 cell. So it's not a really big deal for 1 cell, but it's just good to know. So what I'm going to do is just type in the numbers, and this, people who don't know how to use Excel, this is what they do. And then I'm going to click the check mark because I want to stay in here. Notice that in the formula bar, I have the formula, and I also have it down here. But once I click the check mark, I have the formula up here and the answer down here. So a lot of times if you're doing a formula and it's not the way, it doesn't come out the way you want it to come out, you can look up here and you can do what editing you want, and then it will work for you. Now here's the thing. If you did this and somebody came in and said, oh, you know, February was not supposed to be 90, it was supposed to be 100. If you change February to 100, every place that you use that February, the 90 for February, you would have to go and change it to 100. And if you forgot someplace, then you would corrupt your data and your answers would be incorrect. So we don't want to do that. I'm going to hit delete, get rid of that. So another way that you can do this is what we call the point and click method. Again, I will start with an equal sign. I will click on the first one, put in a plus because you're responsible for pluses and minuses and that kind of stuff. Put in a plus, click on the third one, hit the check mark, and we get the 220, and you can see that this is the contents of B5 plus the contents of C5 plus the contents of D5. So now if I go in and I change February to 100, notice the total will automatically change. So I'm just going to undo that to keep it like that. So that's another way that you can do it. The problem is we're doing something very small. And most of the time when you're taking a training class, they don't want to overwhelm you with 50 columns of data and 100 rows of data. But you can have that when you're doing a spreadsheet. Maybe this could be a 2-year sales report, and you'd have months going all the way out to AA, AB, somewhere around there. And you don't want to have to sit there and click on something and press plus and click and press, because if the phone rings or you sneeze or something like that and you lose your place, you can wind up with terrible results. And Excel knows this. So what Excel has is a function that's going to help you do your addition. And the function is going to be up here in the editing section, and it looks like a Greek letter. And if you point to it, it says sum. And I'm going to click on it. And the first thing Excel does is it goes out shopping looking for a range of numbers. And here it finds a range of numbers. It puts these marching ants around it. And up here you will see what the function looks like. So this is the first function that we're using. We'll be using many more as we go into more Excel is Easy lessons. But when you want to read this in English, it says add the contents of the range B5 through D5. So the colon stands for through. And if we were over at AA5, this would go B5, B6, B7, B8, all the way to AA5. I know this is a smaller one, so it doesn't look very exciting, but it's still a lot easier than clicking and dragging over each one of the cells that you want to add. And again, if you change a number in here, this is automatically going to change your answer down here. Now, we could do equal sum for each one of these. Okay, but again, I want you to think big. What if we had 100 rows? We certainly wouldn't want to sit here and keep doing equal sum 100 times. So again, here's where our handy fill handle comes in. If you click and you hold that down, it's going to put all the totals in for you. And here you say we have B5 through D5, B6 through D6, all the way B11, D11, and if you were down to 100, it would be B100 colon D100. So that is a better way to do that. Now the other thing that you can do, and if you really want a shortcut, is after you do the first one, if you double click the fill handle, it will fill in everything until it hits a blank cell here, a blank cell here, or a different formula here. If we had a different formula here, or if we, actually even if we had text here, as soon as it finds something that it's not adding the 3 cells to, it's going to stop for you. And it's a good idea when you do this to always check and see that your range is okay. Because if you've set up your sheet a little bit different, you may have to change the range if it's picking up a column that it's not supposed to pick up. So this is everything that we're going to be doing in the first one, but as a final thing, let's just change the sheet name to say Q1 Sales, as we learned how to do that before. And also to let you know that wherever you keep your cursor when you save your file is going to be where the cursor is when you come back. This is a little different than Word and PowerPoint. Word will always start at the beginning of the document, and PowerPoint will always start on slide 1. But in Excel, it will keep wherever you land. And it's very important to know this, because if you go in and you look at somebody else's sheet and you move around like this, Excel may ask you when you leave if you want to save the changes, because if you've moved your cursor, then it acts as if it's a change. So if you haven't made any real changes, then you can just say no, you don't want to save it. But I've had people ask me, I didn't do anything. How come it's asking me? And the answer is because you moved your current cell to something else. So we're going to leave that here. We're going to click the Save button here. And then I'm going to say goodbye from the cell sheet and go back to the PowerPoint for just a minute. So next time we're going to talk about some other functions, and then we're going to actually create a formula by ourselves without using an Excel function. And we're also going to talk about absolute and relative addressing. So if you have subscribed, you'll probably get a notice. And if you haven't, please feel free to hit the subscribe button at the bottom. We'd love to have you, and I will talk to you soon.